brilliant exploit. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Que l'on ouvre les portes. Let the doors be open. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The Honourable Member for Fredericton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, we observed the National Day of Mourning, celebrating International Workers' Day. And at the same time, this House passed legislation forcing striking employees to go back to work. This is just another example of the inconsistencies between what this government says and what it does. Today, I want to recognize that some of us have been privileged to work from home, taking refuge from the worst consequences of the pandemic, carried along by its steady current. For others, working in hospitals, long-term care homes, in fields, in stores, often at minimum wage, risking their lives every day, they are the ones who had to swim against the current, barely keeping their head above water. Recognition isn't enough. We need to act, providing paid sick leave and paid time off for vaccinations. Every worker in this country must be protected and supported. Until then, are we really all in this together?
The Honourable Member for Milton.
Cloverdale, Langley City.
We'll go to the Honourable Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a big fan of the Pioneer Woman who blogs about life on the ranch in Oklahoma. I was scrolling through my Instagram and I saw the gorgeous photos of her daughter's wedding they held last weekend. Pictures of people dancing and having a great time. And then I thought, wait, why is no one wearing a mask? Why aren't they self-distanced? Well, it turns out that back in January, Oklahomans were being vaccinated by the hundreds of thousands, and now they have days where they have no new cases of COVID. Here in Canada, almost no one was being vaccinated, and now we are setting records for new cases. While the U.S. focused on procuring vaccines from reputable pharmaceutical companies early on, our Prime Minister frittered away his time trying to make a deal with China. Today, we see America opening and getting back to normal. But because of our government's mismanagement, we are seeing stricter lockdowns that are wreaking havoc on our mental health. Canada should have been a leader, not back of the line. No weddings and gatherings for Canadians this spring and summer, and you can thank the Liberals for that.
The Honourable Member for Milton.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a great pleasure to speak in the House today about Dutch Heritage Day.
Today, the 5th of May, is Dutch Heritage Day. Over 1 million tulips are in bloom in Ottawa, and a few dozen are up here in my garden in Milton as well. Today, Canadians of Dutch heritage from coast to coast to coast are celebrating their culture. In 1945, the Dutch royal family sent 100,000 tulip bulbs to Ottawa in gratitude for Canadians having sheltered the Queen Juliana and her family from Nazi occupation of the Netherlands during the Second World War. And every year since, the Dutch royal family has sent more tulip bulbs to celebrate the wonderful bond and friendship that our countries continue to share. In October of 1953, a 6-month-old Joe Vancouverton, that's my dad, arrived in Canada with his parents and siblings and started our family's Canadian journey. I'm proud of my Dutch heritage, as all Dutch Canadians are. My only regret is that I don't speak more Dutch. Ik wil al mijn mede Nederlandse Canadezen een fijne Dutch Heritage Day wensen. Dank u wel, meine de voorzitter.
The Honourable Member for Labrador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is Red Dress Day and a day to, sorry, I think my video is off here. Here we go. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is Red Dress Day, and it's a day to honor First Nations, Inuit, and Métis women and girls, and 2S LGBTQIA+ people who we have loved and lost, and we vow to put an end to this national tragedy that has impacted so many in Canada. The Liberal Budget 2021 proposes historic investments to support families and survivors, Indigenous partners and governments, and to support those under a journey to healing, justice, and together we will work to prevent future acts of violence in our country. For example, we have partnered with Patuti, Inuit Women of Canada, to fund the construction and operation of shelters across Inuit Nanungat and in urban centers. We're investing to support cultural policing and community safety programs. We are working to foster a healthcare system that is free from racism and discrimination. On this Red Dress Day, we wear red for the daughters, the sisters, the mothers, the grandmothers, and all those whose lives have been affected. Together, we will end violence against missing, murdered, and Indigenous women in Canada and 2SLGBTQIA+ people. That is
L'honorable.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, today, in recognition of Multiple Sclerosis Month, I'm taking part in the MS Society's virtual carnation distribution. On average, 12 people in this country are diagnosed with multiple sclerosis every day. This disease can affect anyone and occurs without warning. The best way to fight it is to invest in research. This is how we can develop better treatments, improve the quality of life of our fellow citizens, and find a cure for multiple sclerosis. It's fundamental. I encourage parliamentarians to support charities such as the MS Society of Canada so that they can continue work in this area. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Orleans. Mr. Speaker, I recently had the honour of congratulating an exceptional woman from Orleans named Rhoda Muse on her appointment as Secretary General of the Canadian Commission for UNESCO. Her career as a school board trustee, vice president of the CEPO, and career public servant has earned her many accolades, including the Professional Award at the Sapphire 2020 Awards, which recognizes female leadership in Ontario. I'm not surprised to see her recognized once again by this prestigious organization. Given her community building skills and her desire to contribute to the advancement of peace, diversity, and tolerance, she will certainly be a great asset to this organization. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate her on this well-deserved recognition and thank her for all she does for our community and our country. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to talk about my late friend Ted Marianix. Like more than 90,000 Canadians, Ted was living with MS. Ted struggled with MS, but worked hard to keep his independence. MS is a terrible disease. Severe episodes come and go without warning. Research shows that people with MS have high unemployment rates. Sadly, many people who want to work struggle to do so. Bosses need to be more flexible for people with MS. May is MS Awareness Month. Its symbol is a carnation. Get your virtual carnation online. Today, I'm remembering Ted. Let's support everyone living with MS.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Centre.
Mr. Speaker, MS is the most common neurological disease affecting young Canadians. The incidence is 3 times higher among women. COVID-19 has amplified the incomes and insecurity faced by women with disabilities. Diagnosed with MS in 2008, Michelle Hewitt shares how difficult it is to make ends meet. Quote, I regularly speak to women no longer able to work with no avenues for income once their medical employment insurance is finished. They are not seen as disabled enough, and the system is failing them. Our government, in the speech from the throne, vowed to introduce a new Canadian disability benefit to support Canadians with disabilities and lift them out of poverty. Today, in honor of MS Awareness Month, I will join with MS Society's carnation pinning to support a world free of MS. I encourage all to join in this effort.
The Honourable Member for Cape Breton Canso.
Mr. Speaker, last week, the third wave of COVID-19 found its way to the shores of Nova Scotia, and I rise in the House today to commend Nova Scotians for doing their part to mitigate the spread of virus in our province. Mr. Speaker, as soon as it became clear that the virus was finding its way back into our communities, Nova Scotians took swift action to support one another, whether they're waiting in line for an asymptomatic COVID test or volunteering at testing sites or delivering food to those in need or giving up their space to provide childcare for frontline workers. Nova Scotians know that we're all in this together, even while we're staying apart. I want to thank Dr. Strang and his entire team at the Nova Scotia Public Health, as well as the Nova Scotia Health Authority, for their leadership and for taking this pandemic seriously since the very beginning. We are now day 7 of our 2-week province-wide shutdown, and I'm so proud of my constituents and all Nova Scotians for doing their part to keep our communities and province safe. Mr. Speaker, waves have crashed on our shores before here in Nova Scotia, but Nova Scotians always find a way forward.
The Honourable Member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, I'm honored to speak today in support and recognition of today being Red Dress Day. It started with the art installation project, the Red Dress Project by Jamie Black. Red dresses hung in public spaces are a visual reminder of Canada's missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. It has grown into a national day of awareness, a day dedicated to remembering and honoring these precious lives that have been lost and to stand against racism and hate. The victims of these horrific tragedies and their families deserve justice today. A red dress is on display at each of my 3 constituency offices to honor these Indigenous women and girls. I encourage everyone to wear red today to help raise awareness to support the victims and families of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Calgary is a dynamic city. It is a resilient city. Analysts know that the advances Canada has led in oil and gas revolve around the development of technology. Despite a tumultuous 6 years, Calgary's technology industry continues to prosper and is doubling down on growth and opportunities. Venture capital investment in Alberta tech opportunities has experienced phenomenal growth. 2020 saw $455 million invested in Alberta tech companies, eclipsing all previous records. Infosys has announced plans to create 500 jobs. mCloud is moving its head office here. Extreme Telematics Corp, Nobile Technologies, Stellar Algo, Carbonova. I could go on at length with the outstanding technology opportunities. These new companies build on a business culture that embraces challenges and rewards success. Mr. Speaker, let me say thank you to all our great tech entrepreneurs who are building our innovative business culture in Alberta.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're all currently fighting COVID-19, but today my thoughts go out to those who have another daily battle, namely those who have an autoimmune disease. I would like to recognize May as Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month. We all know people close to us who live with MS on a daily basis. This disease isn't the same for everyone, and neither is the suffering. There is no one day or 1 week when the reactions are similar or the body reacts in the same way. It is not uncommon to hear that a person with MS had to lie down for a whole day because their body could no longer function, while a few days later, everything seems to be back to normal. Today, and every day of the year, we owe it to ourselves to think of them and to be there for them. I invite all Canadians to support those who live with this type of disease. We must not forget them.
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, multiple sclerosis is a disease that impacts all Canadians, not only the individuals living with the disease, but also their families, friends, co-workers, and healthcare teams. Women are impacted by MS 3 times more often than men, and nearly 60% of people living with the disease eventually can no longer work. More needs to be done to support women who live with MS and to help them stay in the workforce for as long as they can. Unfortunately, for too many living with MS, treatments aren't accessible, available, or affordable. I support the MS Society's call for improved access to all Health Canada-approved treatments. The MS community needs to know that the life-changing treatments that exist will be available to them regardless of where they live or how much money they earn. Today, in honor of the MS Awareness Month, I'm participating in the MS Society's virtual carnation pinning to show my commitment to improve the lives of Canadians affected by MS. I hope you will all join me.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, guess what I'm talking about today. Pensioners had to pay taxes on a salary he never received. A retiree is still waiting for almost $40,000 in back pay because she didn't receive because she was working for the government. An employee who changed departments has not received a salary for 7 weeks, and an employee who's been waiting for payment for 2 years has seen her file relegated to oblivion because the person who's supposed to take care of it only speaks English and didn't pass it on to a francophone. Thousands of people have had their compensation taxed because the Treasury Board and the CRA are unable to communicate. Bingo, I'm talking about Phoenix and its woes. If a private company were to act this way to its employees, it would be quickly brought before the courts. But for more than 5 years now, government employees have been ignored by their own employer. Our public servants are dedicated and do not deserve to be treated this way like the Canadian government does.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, I'm here in Ottawa today to specifically push back and fight against the government's Bill C-10, which is an absolute attack on the freedoms we as Canadians enjoy online. This legislation gives sweeping power to the CRTC to regulate the internet with no clear guidelines of how that power will be used. The government has now said they will introduce an amendment to make it clear that the content uploaded on social media sites won't be regulated by this bill. However, Canadians still have the right to be concerned. This is unacceptable in a society like ours that values its freedom. It couldn't have been said any better than the former chairman of the CRTC, where he states, "This doesn't just infringe on the free expression, it constitutes a full-blown assault upon it and through it the foundations of democracy." Mr. Speaker, this bill has no place in a free and fair society like Canada, and I will work tirelessly to oppose such a bill from becoming law.
The Honourable Member for Vimy. Mr. Speaker, an MP is nothing without a passionate team. Today I'd like to recognize my own team, the A-Team, who helped me shine as a rookie MP. Maryse, Georges, Marlena, thank you for giving the constituents of Vimy the personal support they deserve during these difficult times. Chris, Angelica, I appreciate your hard work as fully engaged interns. Tom, thank you for supporting me in all things legislative and the Finance Committee. And Sylvie, above all, thank you for your knowledge, experience, and leadership that guides us all. Mr. Speaker, I know I speak for all members when I say that we are proud of our teams and we owe them a big thank you for the work they do for this great country.
Oral questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, when General Vance retired, the Prime Minister's office praised his leadership of Operation Honour. 3 full years after his office knew the General had been accused of sexual misconduct. A supportive statement of character for someone who perpetrated sexual misconduct was enough to terminate the Special Forces commander. Why isn't it enough to terminate Katie Telford?
Honourable Prime Minister.
The harassment, intimidation, and assault faced by far too many women and men serving in the military is absolutely unacceptable. As a government, we move forward with measures to create greater support for anyone who comes forward. Measures we've taken since being in government haven't gone far enough. We announced in Budget 2021 over $236 million to eliminate sexual misconduct and gender-based violence in the Canadian Armed Forces. It is a priority for us to eliminate all forms of misconduct and create a safe workspace. We will continue to work on this altogether.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Continue to work on it. They ignored it for 3 years, Mr. Speaker. Michael Wernick testified that he sent the Prime Minister's office a briefing in 2018 giving them the option of ending General Vance's tenure. Instead, the Prime Minister gave him a raise and allowed the General to stay for another 2.5 years. When discussions were being held about extending General Vance's tenure, did Katie Telford tell the Prime Minister there were outstanding allegations of sexual misconduct against him? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to correct the record when the Leader of the Opposition says we've done nothing since we got elected. On the contrary, since 2015, we listened to survivors, we strengthened laws against intimate partner violence, we made investments to prevent and address gender-based violence. We put forward the first ever federal strategy to prevent gender-based violence in June 2017, with $200 million provided. We put forward a national action plan against gender-based violence with support of provinces, territories, and Indigenous partners. We move forward on support for gender-based violence prevention during the pandemic with over $100 million in emergency support. We have always taken this seriously. We always will.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Does Katie Telford write those notes for the Prime Minister? Because he did not listen to survivors, Mr. Speaker. 3 years ago, he ignored one. The Prime Minister's scandals are like the 5 stages of grief. First is denial. Next is explaining. After that, let's find a retired Supreme Court judge. Then it becomes a learning opportunity for everybody. But there's never any accountability for this Prime Minister. Well, accountability starts today. Who is the Prime Minister going to hold to account in his office for covering up sexual misconduct allegations for 3 years?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, while the Conservatives look for partisan attacks, we will continue to focus on what matters. The reality is, as we've seen it time and time again, far too many survivors, women and men, don't feel comfortable coming forward, don't get the institutional support they need, and that is why we need to make transformational change to the Canadian Armed Forces and indeed right across the country. Those are the things we've moved forward with over the past many years, but we know we need to do much. No one should feel unsafe in coming forward to share their experiences. There need to be accountability. There need to be consequences. And that's what we've always worked on.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président, quand le général...
Mr. Speaker, when General Vance retired, the PMO congratulated him on his leadership of Operation Honor. 3 years before, the PMO had learned that General Vance had been accused of sexual misconduct. That was a good enough reason to terminate the commander of the Special Forces. So, why does the Prime Minister not now want to fire his Chief of Staff? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, bullying, harassment, and assault are issues that face too many women and men in our armed forces. These problems are unacceptable. As a government, we are offering more support for all those who come forward. In Budget 2021, we announced more than $236 million to eliminate sexual misconduct and gender-based violence in the armed forces. The priority is to eliminate all types of misconduct and create a safe workplace, and we will continue to work on this. The Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the sexual misconduct allegations against General Vance is a nightmare for all those who are trying to serve their country in the Canadian Armed Forces. There is a climate of fear and a culture of silence. When complaints are made, nothing is done. This Liberal government is ignoring the seriousness of the situation. Who will the Prime Minister hold accountable? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, there are too many women and men in the armed forces who don't feel safe when they don't feel safe reporting their allegations or talking about their experiences and talking about those who may have behaved in an unacceptable fashion towards them. We need to change this. That is why we have appointed Justice Arbour. That is why we have appointed General Carignan in order to change the culture in the armed forces once and for all. We've already taken action, but we must do more. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Someone from Bécancour, Nicolas Sorel, a 74-year-old,
74-year-old without work income was a victim of a $10,000 CERB fraud and lost the GST reimbursement. He went to the CRA as well as the bank and the police, but the CRA asked him nonetheless to pay $3,000 in taxes on this sum. Does the Prime Minister believe that in such a case it's the victim who should pay? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we know that unfortunately some Canadians have fallen victim to fraud. The Minister is working closely with the Anti-Fraud Centre in order to try to prevent these problems from occurring. We have also provided Employment Canada and the CRA the necessary resources to increase their capacity to detect CERB fraud, carry out investigations, and support the victims. Fraud victims will not be held responsible for the sums that were sent to the fraudsters. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, what are these practically million victims of CERB fraud supposed to do with the empty words that we've heard from the Prime Minister? A single person who earns $50,000 a year, who falls victim to identity fraud, someone who gets $14,000 in CERB instead of them, is going to need to pay $5,000 to this government in taxes, despite the fact that they never saw the sum. Does the Prime Minister really think that we should be making fraud victims pay? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, fraud victims will not be held responsible for the sums that were sent to the people who stole their identity. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, Justice Deschamps published a report on sexual misconduct in the armed forces. She made a clear recommendation. She said that we need an arm's-length process for complaints. Instead of launching another inquiry, why doesn't the Prime Minister simply implement an independent process for people to be able to lodge complaints? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in Budget 2021, we announced more than $236 million to eliminate sexual misconduct and gender-based violence in the Canadian Armed Forces, specifically to improve support services for survivors and create a new external monitoring system. Based on the measures we had already taken, a long-term culture change process to eliminate sexual misconduct, and a statement of victims' rights, there is still a great deal left to be done. We need to create a system where people can feel safe and supported when they lodge a complaint.
South.
Yes, there's a lot of work that remains. Putting in place the key recommendation of Justice Deschamps in 2015. We've got over 800 allegations in 5 years of either sexual assault or sexual harassment in the Canadian Forces. That is a staggering figure. That means over 3 allegations a week, all the while this Prime Minister was in government. And the Justice Deschamps report makes it clear the #1 recommendation was to put in place an independent process to bring forward complaints. So why hasn't this Prime Minister, in those 5 years with all those allegations, put in place the key recommendation, which is an independent process to bring forward complaints?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
In Budget 2021, we announced over $236 million to eliminate sexual misconduct and gender-based violence in the Canadian Armed Forces, including to enhance internal support services to survivors and implement new external oversight mechanisms. That builds on the work we've already done, including a strategy for long-term culture change to eliminate sexual misconduct and implementing the Declaration of Victims' Rights. We've also appointed Justice Louise Arbour to follow up on the next steps that we can make for permanent change, while appointing General Jenny Carignan to take action right away.
The Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, the pattern of this Prime Minister, when faced with evidence of cover-up and misleading for his own benefit, is to deny, then deny again, then say he didn't know, and then blame someone else, usually a woman. He's done that with the SNC-Lavalin corruption. He's done it with the WE scandal and making sure his family comes out ahead. And he's doing it now with his denial of knowing about the allegations around Vance. Isn't it true that the Prime Minister abandoned our women in the military and was complicit in covering up and protecting General Vance?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
No, Mr. Speaker, it is not true. From the very beginning, we have taken significant steps to support survivors of gender-based violence, to support survivors of harassment and intimidation. We've moved forward with measures across government to create better supports, to create better accountability and stronger processes. As a government and as an individual, I have always taken seriously concerns around sexual assault, and we will continue to do even more. We know that there is much more to do, and we will be focused on that, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Well, that's just not true. The Prime Minister is either complicit or he's incompetent. He either knew, which he denies, or his own Chief of Staff and Minister of Defence have so little regard for him that they see him as just a figurehead. Or maybe they wanted to give him plausible deniability. Which is it with this Prime Minister? Was he complicit in the cover-up? Is he incompetent? Or was he just conveniently left out of the loop so that with a nudge and a wink, he could say, I didn't know?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, from the time I was in university to the time I became leader of the Liberal Party to the time I became Prime Minister, I have always dedicated myself to supporting survivors of sexual violence, to making sure there is a process, there is accountability, that there is the proper kind of supports for anyone who comes forward to denounce irresponsible or unacceptable actions and assaults. This is something that goes to the core of our government and continues to be something we will continue to work on because we know there's always much more to do.
The Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Well, that is just remarkable because one thing we do know is this Prime Minister is not a feminist. His record when it comes to the treatment of women is abysmal. Just ask the poor girl he groped in the Kokanee, or ask the member for Vancouver Granville, or maybe Jane Philpott. How about Selena Caesar Chavenis? And Katie Telford, you're probably next when he's done with you. Most importantly, ask the women in our military if they think this Prime Minister is a feminist. It will be a resounding no. Isn't that the sad truth, Speaker?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to be a feminist, one has to recognize that there is an inequality between men and women and agree that we need to do a lot more work to establish that. That is why we move forward with feminist policies as a government on supporting survivors, on investing in things like childcare, and making sure that we're supporting women entrepreneurs, on demonstrating a focus on pay equity. We have continued to move forward because supporting women's equality, supporting opportunity for everyone is not just the right thing to do, it's also the smart economic thing to do.
The Honourable Member for Aurora Oak Ridges Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, military and civilian members know that harassment is alive and well in D&D. The avalanche of allegations of sexual misconduct in the military continues, but under this Prime Minister, no one is ever responsible, no one is held accountable. He hides, saying he didn't know, but that was 3 years ago. He knows now and still refuses to act. Will this Prime Minister hold anyone accountable for perpetrating sexual misconduct at the highest levels in Canada's military?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the process that was undergone in 2018 was exactly the same process embarked upon by the Leader of the Opposition back in 2015 when he was in government. He heard a rumour of misconduct. He told his staff, who told PMO and the Privy Council office. The job of the politicians and their staff is to ensure that any allegation is given to the appropriate authorities. The Leader of the Opposition and the Conservatives continue to decry a process that they themselves took when they appointed General Vance in the first place.
The Honourable Member for Aurora Oak Ridges Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, women in the military have lost hope. Some have lost their career. Others have tragically accepted there will be no justice. Service to country is an honourable profession. My father served, I served, and I'd be incredibly proud if my daughter wanted to as well. But under this Prime Minister, if she chose a military career, I would be worried for her safety. If they asked him, would this Prime Minister encourage Canada's sons and daughters, including his own, to serve in Canada's armed forces?
Honorable Prime Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it is an extraordinarily honourable calling to serve in the Canadian Armed Forces, to serve one's country in any given way. I am deeply proud that my grandfather was not just a sitting MP, but at the same time served in World War II as a flight lieutenant. Service to country is extraordinary, and that's why we need to make sure that anyone who serves their country gets the proper support when unacceptable actions, when assault, when harassment happens. We have made improvements, but we know there is much more to do, which is why we appointed both Louise Arbour and Jenny Carignan to lead on making these permanent changes.
Well, member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, more reviews and more training are not enough. The Prime Minister's inaction has emboldened the military old boys club and reinforced an entrenched and toxic culture. He refuses to hold those at the highest levels accountable. Not the Defence Minister, no senior member of the Privy Council, no one on the Prime Minister's staff. Promotions and postings for all general officers must be frozen until all of those who are complicit are held accountable. Will this Prime Minister fire those who have failed in their duties to Canadians?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the past years, and indeed over the past months, we have demonstrated firmness and resolve in transforming the culture of the military to make sure that anyone who serves feels supported and resourced as they come forward to share unacceptable actions. We need to put an end of the culture of tolerance, of misogyny and harassment that exists in our military and in far too many other institutions. That is something this government has taken seriously over the past 5 years, and we will continue moving forward.
L'honorable député de Rivière-du-Nord.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, the Defence Ombudsman presented the Minister of Defence with an in-depth file showing that the top officer in the Army, General Vance, had committed sexual misconduct towards a person under his authority. But the Minister of Defence refused to look at it. Even though he knew that these allegations existed, the minister let the general stay in his position for 3 years. He even approved a pay increase for him. Does the Prime Minister approve of his minister's willful blindness? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, it's extremely important that politicians not carry out inquiries on harassment or assault allegations. It's up to the authorities to do that, the relevant authorities, and that's exactly what the Minister of Defence did. He sent the Ombudsman to the relevant authorities to ensure that the process would be duly followed in order to be able to get to the bottom of the issue. Unfortunately, the survivor in this case did not feel appropriately supported enough to enable the Ombudsman to share the information. And that's exactly what we need to change. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Well, if I were in charge of the situation, I think I could have done better. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Defence ignored allegations that he knew to be of a sexual nature because the Ombudsman had told him in 2019. The Prime Minister has said many times that he was not aware of the allegations against General Vance. That means that for 3 years, the Minister of Defence knew that the top officer of the Army was potentially guilty of sexual misconduct, and that for 3 years, he never told the Prime Minister. Can the Prime Minister really trust a minister who hides such important information from him? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what the Honourable Member is saying is entirely false. The committee heard from multiple witnesses over several months, including non-partisan public servants, and they said that the details of the allegations were unknown. That is clear. The Deputy Secretary to Cabinet said, I did not even have information on the nature of the complaint or any details that would have enabled supplementary measures to be taken. The former mediator, the Ombudsman, said that he could not provide further details. He said that he had taken the investigation as far as he could. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Last night, Reuters had a headline that said, quote, the government was working on fake news legislation to tackle misinformation, hatred, and lies as worries grow about media freedoms, end quote. When it comes to the basic freedom of expression, the Prime Minister has also always felt it should be free if it agreed with his expression. Why is the government once again taking a hammer to Canadian free expression rights with Bill C-10?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our artists and creators are among the Canadians who've been hardest hit by this pandemic. They are suffering financially and mentally. This bill is about ensuring that we are no longer putting the interests of international companies ahead of Canadian creators. We've been clear that this is not about individual users or about what individuals Canadians post online. So, as the Minister of Heritage, Canadian Heritage said, we'll be bringing forward an amendment to ensure that this is absolutely clear. We must get to work and pass C-10.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Very interesting, Mr. Speaker. That Reuters headline I was talking about was actually referencing new legislation being introduced in Hong Kong. It should worry Canadians that the Prime Minister couldn't tell the difference between what's happening in Hong Kong and his own Bill C-10. Of course, we shouldn't be surprised, Mr. Speaker, because last fall he told Canadians that free speech has limits. Why is this government using C-10 to crack down on the free speech rights of everyday Canadians on the internet?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to be absolutely clear. This is not about restricting content, but about making Canadian music more discoverable and available to the general public. Freedom of speech is explicitly protected under the Act and in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It is not negotiable for our government, and we will continue to protect it, uphold it, and abide by it. The Conservatives are deliberately misleading Canadians once again, obstructing the study of this important bill and siding with web giants against Canadian creators.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Prime Minister knows this isn't about cultural content. It's about the everyday content that Canadians put on their social media. The Prime Minister last fall mused about placing limits on free speech. He then backtracked and told this House that he would, quote, unequivocally defend freedom of expression, unquote. Will he make good on that promise and withdraw Bill C-10, or will this broken promise to defend the free speech rights of Canadians just be added to the list of broken promises from this Prime Minister?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Unlike what the Leader of the Opposition is trying to pretend, Bill C-10 isn't about what Canadians do online. It's about what web giants don't do, which is to support Canadian-made stories and music. That's why we made sure the bill covers professional, profitable content while explicitly exempting regular users from contribution requirements. We have and we will continue to improve this bill so it truly reflects its initial objective, which is to serve Canadian creators without hindering free expression in this country.
That's right. Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président, la liberté.
Mr. Speaker, freedom of expression is fundamental. It is not a privilege, it is a right. The Prime Minister believes that freedom of expression should be protected if it agrees with his expression. But last year, he said that freedom of expression has its limits. Why is this government again attacking Canadian freedom of expression with Bill C-10? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are showing that they don't understand the Canadian cultural industry. Our creators are some of the Canadians that are most affected by the pandemic. This bill is ensuring that we don't place the interests of multinationals over the interests of Canadian creators. We have clearly indicated that this isn't about individual users or what individual Canadians put online. As the Minister of Heritage said, we will be presenting an amendment to ensure that that is absolutely clear. We must get to work and get C-10 adopted.
South.
In 2015, this Prime Minister promised to get clean drinking water to all Indigenous people within 6 years. 6 years later, he broke that promise. Now, the promise is to do it in 5 years. 11 years to get Indigenous communities clean drinking water is absurd. It is outrageous. It is not good enough, and people are fed up with excuses. Why does this Prime Minister keep on breaking promises to Indigenous people?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, decades of neglect led to the unacceptable reality of First Nations on reserve not having access to safe, clean, reliable drinking water. Let me be clear. Not a single long-term drinking water advisory has been delayed until 2026. We have provided an additional $1.6 billion to accelerate this commitment. We will directly contribute to lifting advisories and stabilizing operations. Since 2015, we've lifted 106 long-term drinking water advisories, and we remain aggressively committed to lifting all long-term advisories and ensuring First Nations have clean water now and into the future.
Well, member for Burnaby South.
The problem is those aggressive commitments continue to be broken and pushed back again and again. Another commitment that this government made was to do something about the missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls' calls for justice. Today is a national day to recognize the losses, to reflect on those losses, and to commit to doing something to protect Indigenous women and girls. So why has it been since 2 years of the report that this Liberal government has yet to do anything to advance those calls for justice to truly honor and respect the demands and needs of the Indigenous communities?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, today is Red Dress Day, the National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. We honor and remember the women, girls, two-spirit and gender-diverse people taken from their families and communities. We're actively working with provinces and territories, Indigenous leaders, survivors and families to develop a national action plan that sets a clear roadmap to keep Indigenous women, girls and two-spirit people safe. But we have from the very beginning made investments and fought against gender-based violence, against the ongoing tragedy that is missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and we will continue to work hand in hand on this path of reconciliation.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Longueuil-Charlemagne. Mr. Speaker, it's Mental Health Week, and we need more accessible mental health services. In my riding, our government opened a clinic in order to improve access to resources for our veterans. This is good news, but we know that there's still a lot of Canadians who need help in these difficult times. Can the Prime Minister tell us about the ways that our government is ensuring Canadians have the mental health support that they need? Thank you. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for Longueuil-Charlemagne for her work and for her question. Too many Canadians suffer from mental health problems because of the pandemic. That's why in Budget 2021, we're giving more funding to innovative projects that will help Canadians have high-quality access to mental health services, like $62 million to ensure that the well-being portal remains accessible to Canadians until 2022. We will continue to be there for Canadians when they need it the most. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, hear what was initially in Bill C-10. A provision saying that the law would not apply to users who generate or receive programming through an online company that provides a social media service, such as YouTube, Facebook, or TikTok. Well, surprise, with no warning, on a Friday afternoon, the Liberals removed this entire section from the bill, thereby attacking Canadians' freedom of expression. Why did the Prime Minister do this? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-10 doesn't focus on what Canadians are doing online. Rather, it looks at what the web giants are not doing. In other words, supporting Canadian stories and music. That's why we ensured that this bill would cover professional, for-profit content while explicitly exempting regular users from these contribution requirements. We will continue to improve the bill to make sure that it truly reflects its initial objective of serving Canadian artists and content creators without trampling on freedom of expression. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister talks, but he forgets that it's the duty of every parliamentarian to protect freedom of expression at all costs. In the original bill, there was just one clause, only one, to protect freedom of expression, and the Liberals chose to remove it on a Friday afternoon with no warning.
With this Liberal attempt to censor Canadians, why should we now believe the Prime Minister? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians certainly won't believe the Conservatives when it comes to culture. As a government, we were always there for Canadian artists, including during the pandemic. This bill doesn't aim to restrict content, but to make Canadian music easier to discover and more accessible to a bigger public. Freedom of expression is explicitly protected in the bill and in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It is non-negotiable, and we will always continue to support content creators across the country. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Well, we'll see if the Prime Minister is honest in his next answer. The Minister of Justice has a responsibility in every bill to give notice to ensure that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is respected. And he had mentioned in his opinion last November that the initial section dealing with the exemption of users of social networks was essential in order to comply with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Now that the section has been removed by the Liberals, can the Prime Minister guarantee today that we will have a new opinion from the Minister of Justice before we continue with our study of C10? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. As a government, we will always be there to support the cultural industry and content creators and artists in Canada. The Conservatives are deliberately misleading Canadians. They're throwing a wrench into the study of this bill, and they're pitting web giants against Canadian artists. On this side of the House, we will always stand with the cultural industry all across Canada. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is misleading people by leading them to believe that we are against culture. For his information, Peter Menzies, the former CRTC Commissioner, Michael Geist, Professor Emeritus of Law at the University of Ottawa, Emily Laidlaw, Professor of Law at the University of Calgary, Dwayne Winsek, Professor at Carleton University, and several others, as well as thousands of Canadians who have written to us, are all calling out the Liberals' direct attack on our freedom of speech. Why is the Prime Minister ignoring them all with this by deleting this clause in the bill? Why? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, Mr. Speaker, you can see that the Conservatives are trying to mislead Canadians. This bill does not target what Canadians do online. Rather, it targets what the web giants don't do. In other words, support Canadian music and stories. That's why we tried to ensure that this bill would cover professional for-profit content while explicitly exempting regular users from contribution requirements. We will always protect freedom of expression. We will always support our artists.
Honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Avignon-Lamitis-Matane-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, 5,000 COVID-positive travelers have checked into hotels since the federal government imposed quarantines, a quarter of them carrying a variant. 5,000 people that prove that the Bloc was right to demand a quarantine. But since variants now make up more than 84% of cases in Quebec, this proves that the federal government is still letting too many travelers slip through. Ottawa did not track the contacts of the 1,411 people who left the hotel with a negative test after 3 days, but who then tested positive on day 10. Will the Prime Minister strengthen the screening of travelers given the threat of these variants? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, for over a year now, we've had our borders closed to all non-essential travelers. We will continue to impose the necessary steps to protect Canadians. Today, if you return to Canada, you need a test before getting on the plane, before arriving at the border. You need a test when you arrive. You need a test on day 8. And then you need to quarantine for 2 weeks. That's mandatory. We do follow up and we protect Canadians. And we will continue to add new measures as data shows them to be necessary, just as we interrupted all direct flights from India and Pakistan. The Honourable Member for Avignon-Lamitis-Matane-Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, the federal government keeps making the same mistakes. They've been downplaying the impact of travel, even though that's how COVID got here, and that's how the variants are still coming in. Ottawa has no idea who's been in contact with the 1,411 people who left the hotel after a negative test, but then tested positive on day 10. Ottawa has no idea who's been in contact with the hundreds of thousands of travelers who crossed our land borders, and who were then only asked to go home and be tested. When will they realize that community spread starts at the border, and that restrictions need to be tightened? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. In this House, I expect the Conservatives to come forward with misinformation, but it surprises me coming from the Bloc. The reality is that COVID arrived in Canada because Canadians returned in March 2020 from their spring break holidays, and they came back with COVID-19. We weren't going to ban Canadians from returning home. That's why we worked with the provinces to assure that we would have restrictions that were necessary in our community, but that the federal government would support people with the CERB and other benefits. We are continuing to work hand in hand with our partners.
Member for Lethbridge.
In a democracy, it is the government's job to defend people's right to speak freely. Yet, this Liberal government is doing the exact opposite with Bill C-10. They edited their very own bill to remove the protections that were once in place for the content that Canadians post online. Bizarrely, they are justifying this alarming move by saying that it is to protect art, music, and culture. If the Prime Minister is so obsessed with protecting culture, could he perhaps start by protecting Canada's long-standing commitment to free speech?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me be absolutely clear. Bill C-10 is not about restricting content or freedom of speech, but about making Canadian music more discoverable and more available to the general public. Freedom of speech is explicitly protected under this Act and in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It is not negotiable by this government, and we will continue to abide by it, protect it, and uphold it. The Conservatives are yet again deliberately misleading Canadians and obstructing the study of this important bill by siding with web giants against Canadian creators.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Interesting. The Prime Minister on the one hand says, it's clear, folks, it's clear, you're protected. But then he says, we're going to bring amendments in because further protection is needed. The Liberals keep saying that artists need this bill rushed through. Therefore, Conservatives should stop asking questions. Not a chance. If they weren't aware, freedom of speech and expression actually matter to Canadians, especially to artists. So while the Liberals continue to justify their power grab, Conservatives will continue to stand up for all Canadians. Would the Prime Minister perhaps like to come on board?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, this bill is not about what Canadians do online. It's about what web giants don't do, which is to support Canadian-made stories, music, and creators. That is why we made sure this bill covers professional, profitable content while explicitly exempting regular users from contribution requirements. We have and we will continue to improve this bill so it truly reflects its initial objective, which is to serve Canadian creators without hindering freedom of expression in this country.
Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
He's so unfamiliar with the content of the bill that he has to read talking points. Yesterday, I was on a talk radio panel. The parliamentary secretary said to the Minister of Heritage said it is crystal clear that Bill C-10 does not target individuals. A few minutes later, however, she said that the minister is going to bring forward amendments to make sure it is crystal clear. You can't have it both ways. The bill can't already be crystal clear and still need amendments. So which is it? Is the bill already perfect, or does it infringe on Canadians' charter rights and therefore need to be amended?
Honourable Prime Minister.
You know the Conservatives are casting about, desperate to make attacks on an issue that matters to all Canadians, which is freedom of expression, when they find, the fact that we're willing to listen to amendments and move forward to make improvements as proof that it's a terrible piece of legislation. The reality is we are focused on supporting content creators, we are focused on protecting freedom of expression, and we are happy to work with all parties to ensure that Canadians understand that that's exactly what this bill will do.
The Honourable Member for Don Valley North.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, each May, Canadians across this country mark Asian Heritage Month by recognizing the contributions Asian Canadians in building our great nation from coast to coast to coast. Unfortunately, since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen a significant increase in reported cases of anti-Asian racism, which has left many in my community of Don Valley North extremely concerned. Mr. Speaker, we know that in Canada, diversity is one of our greatest strengths, and there is no place for hate and intolerance. Can the Prime Minister please tell this House the importance of this year's Asian Heritage Month holds?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from Don Valley North for his leadership and his continuous efforts to combat anti-Asian racism. Asian Heritage Month is an opportunity to celebrate the immeasurable contributions that Canadians of Asian descent have brought to shape Canada. This year's theme is recognition, resilience, and resolve. An important theme to urge all Canadians to come together to combat all forms of racism and discrimination. As we celebrate Asian Heritage Month, we are committed to fighting all forms of discrimination through important measures such as Canada's Anti-Racism Strategy 2019-2022, and we will keep at it.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Is the root problem with C10 that the Prime Minister can't show leadership on questions of ethics? He couldn't deal with sexual misconduct allegations against the Chief of Defence Staff because he was dealing with revelations of assault that he had committed. He fired his Attorney General when she tried to stop him from interfering in the prosecution of his friends at SNC Lavalin. Instead of the Prime Minister fixing his own ethical problems, is the real plan to silence his critics online instead?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservatives again resort to personal attacks and mudslinging, we will stay focused on helping Canadians through this pandemic and into a Build Back Better future. The fact is, whether it's supporting creators and content producers online, whether it's standing up for survivors of sexual assault and ensuring we transform the culture of the military, or whether it's making sure that we're supporting small businesses and jobs right across the country, we will continue to stay focused on what matters to Canadians while Conservatives continue to focus on me.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Anytime anyone asks a tough question of this Prime Minister, he says it's a personal attack. That's why when questions got really tough and heated for this Prime Minister when he was trying to cover up his conflict of interest in the WE scandal, he shut down Parliament during a pandemic. And now his attacks on democracy have gotten more brazen. And that's what he's trying to do by silencing Canadians online with Bill C-10. Will the Prime Minister tell us how long it will be before every aspect of Canadian life must conform to his liberal vision of Canadian society?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The tinfoil hats on the other side of the aisle are really quite spectacular. Our focus throughout this pandemic has been focused on Canadians, on supporting hardworking Canadians, on supporting artists, on supporting workers, on supporting women, on making sure that vulnerable Canadians get the support they need throughout. We will continue to stand up to defend freedom of speech, stand against hatred and discrimination, and do it while supporting Canadians to both get through this pandemic and come roaring back on the other side. That is our focus, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives can continue to focus on me. We'll continue to focus on Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, just like we heard from this Prime Minister that the story in the Globe and Mail was false, he can't be believed. Let's listen to Michael Geist, Canada Research Chair in Internet Law at the University of Ottawa. He said, and I quote, "The Prime Minister keeps saying in the House of Commons that Bill C-10 only covers professional, for-profit content. Simply false. The word, quote, professional doesn't even appear in the bill, which now clearly covers user-generated content given the government's amendments," close quote. So who should Canadians believe? This Prime Minister or Canada's leading internet law expert?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this bill isn't about what Canadians do online. It's about what web giants don't do, which is to support Canadian-made stories and music. That's why we made sure the bill covers professional, profitable content while explicitly exempting regular users from contribution agreements. We have and will continue to improve this bill so it truly reflects its initial objective, which is to serve Canadian creators without hindering freedom of expression in this country.
The honourable member for York Centre.
Mr. Speaker, in 2018, this House unanimously passed a bill making the month of May Canadian Jewish Heritage Month. As a Jewish Canadian, I'm proud to join the House today in celebrating the incredible contributions of the Jewish community to our great country. At the same time, though, we are witnessing a distressing rise in hate and anti-Semitism globally, but also here at home in Canada. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister update this House on how the government is taking action against anti-Semitism in Canada?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from York Centre for her hard work for her constituents and her advocacy. This month, we have the opportunity to celebrate and learn about Jewish communities in Canada, along with their history of courage and resilience. This is also a time to reaffirm our commitment to combat xenophobia and anti-Semitism. Our government is committed to fighting hatred, prejudice, and discrimination in all their forms through important measures such as Canada's Anti-Racism Strategy 2019-2022, in which the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism was formally adopted.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Thank you. The situation right now in India is catastrophic. It is horrible to see the images of people desperate for help. People are dying because they can't get access to oxygen. The situation requires the entire world to come together to provide support. We need to provide support to India to help the people of India. There's one concrete thing that this Liberal government can do. What poor countries need is the vaccine patents to be waived so they can produce more vaccine and protect more people. But what we've seen so far from this Liberal government is they're more interested in protecting the profits of big pharmaceutical companies than actually helping these poor countries by waiving those patent protections. So will this Prime Minister waive or support the waiver of those patent protections so that poor countries can produce more vaccine and we can get the help to India and the people of India that they need?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the ongoing tragedy in India is something that is breaking hearts around the world, and it's why Canada has reached out to our Indian counterparts to ensure that they know that we are there to help in a broad range of ways. The Minister of Foreign Affairs has spoken with his counterparts, and we will continue to be there to support people suffering in India. On the WTO, we're actively working with international partners to support the WTO's dialogue with the pharmaceutical sector and to accelerate equitable global vaccine production and distribution. In this way, as well as through our contributions to COVAX, our government is committing to ensuring equitable access to vaccines.
That's all the time we have for today's question period. C'est tout le temps que nous avons.
That is all the time we have today. We have a point of order, the honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think if you ask the opinion of the House, you will receive unanimous consent for the following motion, that the House A, recognize that any fiscal advantages given to Netflix is an injustice for a local broadcaster, and B, ask the government to make them pay their fair share, all web giants, by including Netflix in its tax structure of 3% on digital services.
Okay, on va attendre. Que tous ceux qui sont...
May all those who are against the motion, please say nay.
D'accord.
Agreed. The House has heard the motion. May all those opposed to the motion please say nay. Carried.
Yeah, point of order. The honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
On that last unanimous consent motion, I just wanted to clarify, Mr. Speaker, that I just wanted to clarify that no company is excluded from the proposed digital services tax.
I believe that's getting into debate, but thank you, honourable member, for pointing that out. Okay, there we go. It being 3:12, pursuant to order made on Monday, January 25th, 2021.
Sorry, my hand is raised.
Yeah, the honourable member for Portage-Lisker has a point of order.
Actually, I'd like to add to my question of privilege, Speaker, from last week. Would you allow me to do that now, or do you prefer I do it
I believe
after
that's
the
scheduled
vote?
for after the votes. I think there was some agreement reached between the whips and the table, but yeah, we'll get there. Back to it now being 3:13, pursuant to order made on Monday, January 25th, 2021, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion at third reading stage of Bill C-228 under private members' business. Call in the members.
After.
Yep.
1 second.
The question is as follows.
Seconded by Monsieur Paulus, moved that Bill C-228, an act to establish a federal framework to reduce recidivism, be now read a third time and do pass. La période de...
The 10-minute period for members voting electronically has started, and the House will now proceed to the vote.
Start with the response, the sponsor of the item.
I vote in favor of the bill, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I vote in favor.
We will now proceed to members voting in person.
Sure.